All right. Oops. Thanks everybody for joining us today. So this is week 1 of DS6. Well done, guys. Good first week. So this is our great team photo. So thanks to Craig Bloodworth for this is definitely the best team photo we've had so far. They're much better when you take them with a good camera instead of a phone. But the quality of the picture, not necessarily the people in it. But, so the running order today, Marcus. Well, actually, I'll take you guys around the names, starting with the upper left and going to the lower left. So we got Lee, Elena, Mina, William, Jamie, Marcus, AJ, and Alex. Alex, not AJ. Yeah. So this week we covered lots of things. We started the week off with some kit setup and everything, and then we went through a data visualization best practices class. Before we had David Krupp from Makeover Monday fame join us for a fantastic talk Monday afternoon before we did Makeover Monday live together. Tuesday had James Eilart coming in the morning to talk to us about Tableau and his role and what they see in the data school, very inspirational talk. And Wednesday we had a full day class with Caroline Bevan taking us through infographics and design process, which you should see some of that this week in their presentations. And then we spent the rest of the week just working through Tableau basics, building lots of charts. I think we're up to 50 some now, something like that. So hopefully by the end of 4 months, we have a workbook of several hundred visualizations in there. So that's it for me. First up is Marcus.
Woo.
Marcus, stand up at the front, please.
How do
I will share, make you the presenter. And you should get a request. Oh, I should wait to do this. Remember I messed this up last time doing it that way. Remember made it all small the last time? All right. Oh, good. The size looks good. Okay. Cool. He's a training constantling analyst. All right, what a start. What a start. Chris loves feedback. Obviously, he's taking it well.
Thank you.
It's a new type of consultant. Yeah. Is that like that's the T for trainee? It could be constantling analyst.
Constantling analyst.
Yeah.
Change it with my LinkedIn profile. Right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Marcus Grant, and I am one of the 8 trainee consulting analysts here at the Data School. #team DS6. At the bottom is also my Twitter handle. So yes, in this presentation, I'm going to talk to you about, well, my first visualization and sort of what we've learned from it, and as we've already been for a week at the Data School, what we've learned and sort of how I've incorporated it into my new visualization. So yeah, so to get started, we'll move on to my initial application to Data School, which was done back in,
What does it say on the
just over a month ago.
Yeah.
Just over a month ago, when I submitted my first application to the Data School. And this is it, basically. So the data set that I used for this visualization was the NHS sickness absence rates for 2015 and 2016.
Is that like employee sickness?
That's
employees
correct,
calling
yes.
in sick? Okay.
Yeah, so this is employee sickness, employees calling in sick, employees getting hit by a bus and not making it to work. It covers a various range of different ailments. And yeah, I'm going to talk you through this visualization. Right, where do we start? So at the top of this visualization, we can immediately see that I've included a bar chart, which was initially meant to be used to sort of give the user the NHS person viewing this a look into sort of how their region how the thickness absence rates in a region sort of pan out across all the other regions too, from 2015 to 2016. One of the things I sort of didn't like about this is, I'll go into a few of the cons on this that I've picked out after my first week here. I've used quite a few colors in there, colors that clash, I think, a bit too many colors into visualization. Naming conventions so using the bar, I should have flipped the bar chart to stop us from tilting our heads to sort of see which region is which. And also I've used quite a lot of abbreviations in here. The average person viewing this isn't going to know what a CCG is, or an MH, or a PR, or an ABCDEFG, or anything else in there that I might have decided to add. So each bar sort of represents the thickness rate for each organisation, broken down into CCGs, clinical commissioning groups, MH, mental health trust, and PR, which I've completely forgotten what that means.
Public relations?
No, sadly not public relations.
I think they're not trusts or
I think it's primary care trusts. Not too sure, I can't remember off the top of my head. I've also included a map in this, which at the time I thought was absolutely amazing. However, after a few weeks, I sort of realized, oh my God, red equals good, apparently, and green equals bad. For a normal person viewing this immediately, you'll sort of see that in your mind, green usually means good, and red usually means bad. But I sort of got it wrong in this one, and the scale is the wrong way around. And that's sort of one of the downsides to my first viz. Looking into sort of what I did like about it, so I don't want to keep on the negatives, but what I did like about it, mainly the map. This was the first time I've ever created a map in Tableau, and immediately it sort of stands out to the user that you can see the different boroughs in London. Maybe I should have added a little title to each borough so we understand which borough is which. And yeah, I think it stands out quite nicely. And if I got the colour scheme correct, the correct way around, it would have portrayed the message a lot better.
There's also none of them that are so small that you can't see them. So even though it's a filled map, which we've talked about this week, it works okay in this case because they're all still big enough to see. Not one is any significantly larger than the others.
Yeah, and these even putting the black border on it makes it stand out a bit more,
right,
and a bit easier to see where each borough ends off. And yeah, that's sort of.
What about your title?
What I created.
Yeah, you want to explain that?
The title, right? So, ditto. The title at the time, I sort of, oh God, there's an S missing on the title.
Well, I don't know if it's missing or if it's covered up.
It's because you have the floating and mixed color.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's kind of one of the disadvantages of mixing floating and tiled together.
Yes, yeah. And lesson learned in thickness rates 2.0, I've sort of stuck with using everything's fixed. And yeah, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit now about sort of the design process going into my second visualization before I actually give the big reveal. This week, as Andy said, we had a introduction to sort of visualization and infographics and infographic design with Caroline Bevan, who sort of talks us through ways that we can use our creative juices to create nice visualizations, taking in the audience, who we wanted to, what the aim of our visualization is, who the audience is, and what message we want to portray to them. And we used a range of methods sort of to get these ideas flowing. One I liked quite a lot was using Post-it notes, and each piece of a Post-it note, or each Post-it note represented a piece of data. So it allows the person creating the visualization to sort of decide what bits of data go where, what they want to keep, and it takes away the stress of having to take it out of visualization and risk sort of ruining it. When you've got it on a Post-it note, you can just screw it up, chuck it straight in a bin,
and move them around, or
and not have to worry about it. And yeah, like Andy said, moving it around as well to sort of see where it might go. We then moved on to sort of drawing on paper. So we used like an A3 sheet of paper, divided it into 4 sections, and used each section to sort of think about how we're going to design our visualization, where each bit goes and what it's going to look like. And that helped quite a lot when it came down to sort of choosing the one that we want to go with, choosing what's going in there before we move into Tableau and sort of design it and create our new visualization. And that proved really useful. So thanks, Caroline, for that session. And yeah, so I think now would be a good time for me to sort of move on to the new product. So get your phones out and take a picture of this one. So you know what it looks like. The V4, and yeah, moving on to
This better be good.
Yeah, I'm just gonna show you a blank sheet.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's all broken.
Right, drum roll, please.
They probably liked us.
Right, and now, sort of this here, the big reveal, is NHS Sickness Absence Rate 2.0, the remastered edition. So yeah, sort of immediately, I've sort of changed the message on this one to sort of make it more understandable to the user and who's viewing it, with the title, How High Are Sickness Absence Rates in South London According to the NHS? Because as you see in the previous one, it just says sickness absence rates in South London. We didn't know sort of what it was, who it's for, but now we've sort of got that message across with the title. So I've used the exact same data that I used before for this visualization, and also again I've used the same charts, but moved them around and made them more effective to get the point across and the message that we're trying to portray with this visualization. So as we move down this a tiny bit, I've decided to add a borough map. And like I said in my previous one, the colors were completely off. There was no labeling, and yeah, it looked really bad. But now I've sort of fixed that issue where we've now got sort of the boroughs that we can see, so the user knows which borough they're going to be looking at. And I've done it from low to high. So trusts with the boroughs, with the lowest rates of sickness are lighter shades, and the boroughs with the highest rates of sickness are more of a darker shade. And it's immediately you can sort of see that Greenwich stands out the most in this with the darkest blue. I just want to add as well that each borough, so the data for each borough is all the NHS organisations within that borough averaged out, so the sickness rates of the organisations within those boroughs averaged out into the different boroughs that you can see here. And if the user hovers over, they can sort of see that for the year. In here, London Borough of Richmond, a very simple tooltip outlining that London Borough of Richmond has an overall sickness absence rate of 2.45% within this borough. And yeah, this map, I've opted to use blues to go with the NHS flows, like the NHS colours. So I pulled off the NHS colours and decided to use different shades of those in this visualization. And yeah, section it out with nice blue lines, so the user knows which part they're in and which part they're viewing. Yeah, so let's get it back to normal. Right. And moving on, sort of drilling a bit deeper into that data, I've opted to take out the individual organizations, and we're looking at the good and the bad when comparing sickness rates to 2015 and 2016. I'll explain these bar charts to you first before I go into them. So each bar chart is broken down into a different organization type. So we've got the clinical commissioning groups, we've got the mental health services, and we've got the community services in here. And all of these here sort of fall within these boroughs here that we can see above in the above map. The black line that I've opted to use in here is sort of it represents the sickness rates for the previous year, so 2015. And the bar charts are the 2016 data. And I've opted to sort of highlight the blue. I've used the blue to highlight areas where the thickness rate is above the previous average, and immediately you can sort of see where the problem areas are, where it stands out. So using the colours, the big ass words on on this here to sort of represent, each colour of the big ass word represents a point on the bar charts. And going into this, we can sort of see, the user can go in and sort of see which organisations have a worse thickness rate than the previous year. So we've got the good and the bad, as I pointed out. So you can sort of see NHS, Greenwich CCG, is quite high this year. So at 3.9%, it has gone quite far past the bar of 2015, which was 3.1%, as we can see there. And we've also got, so that's a bad, but on the good side, we've also got like a
Control Z.
There we go. We've got NHS Richmond CCG, which is sort of one of the biggest improvers actually within this data set. As you can see, the distance between the bar and the line. So 2015, NHS Richmond CCG had a sickness absence rate of 3.8%, and this year down to 0.9%, which is quite a huge drop. As for what could have caused these sickness absence rates, unfortunately, I'm not too sure. The data didn't
include that, right?
Yeah, it didn't include that. It just sort of had everything broken down into different regions, different NHS organisations, and different boroughs, which is sort of what I put together here. And yeah, I've done a complete overhaul of the wording. So I've opted to use capital letters in all this one, so it stands out more. It improves the readability too. Each word is each letter is clearly seen.
Did Caroline talk about that in her class? Did she talk about casing?
Not too much, no.
No, I sort of got the inspiration from David.
Krupp.
David Krupp, yeah. The inspiration from David Krupp in a session we had with him, and he was showing us some of his work that he's done in Tableau in the past.
But the simple colouring you got from her, though. The simple colouring you did get from her, though.
Yeah, the simple colouring. So yeah, opting to use a single colour and just different shades of that colour from Caroline, and the big capital letters all through, sticking with the consistency all throughout. And yeah, I thought that worked really well for this visualization.
All right. Well done. Feedback first. Who's got feedback?
I've already had the presentation.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll go last. Why don't you guys go first?
I think you could have also mentioned that you actually reduced the color blindness colors. You didn't have green and red anymore, so you took those out, which also were a problem in the first one. And you've opted to do all floating on this one, which solved your problem of the moving around pieces. Or no, you've done tiled.
This is all tiled. So rather than mixing the two up, I've opted to stick to.
In the title, you need to put according to NHS staff data. According to NHS, I thought it would just be everyone that's ever been ill.
Okay, yeah.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
I think this.
Okay.
I think this is, or is it?
It's just staff.
No, it's just,
It's just
NHS.
NHS, yeah, it's just NHS staff. So I could have changed the titles. Well, I should.
Yeah,
Going forward, change the title.
but colour choice is really good, especially in the Gantt chart, isn't it?
The one at the bottom. The
yeah,
bullet graph.
and the one that goes grey, bullet graph, sorry. The one that goes, the way it goes grey when it's less.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, and one thing for your map, you can disable all the options on it so that, for example, people can't zoom or de-zoom because nobody would need to zoom on this map, so it helps prevent what happened before when you're clicking on it and moving around.
Yeah.
So I think that would just
Yeah,
help.
we haven't covered that yet.
Yeah. But then maybe do some stepped colors for the map so that you can see the blues apart from each other a bit more. Yeah. Or just set these.
Yeah. So your lowest value was what, 1 point something?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you
1% on the
I wonder if you should have gone from 1 to 4 instead of 0 to 4. Because you don't really have anything in that gray zone at the bottom, so it would have made them they need to be slightly more distinct from each other, I feel like.
Yeah.
But I really like how you used a single color and just shades that. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
This is so much better than your first one. I mean, it's remarkably better. It's, really, really good. Any other feedback before I give more feedback?
There's something like around the bottom,
So the bottom graph that we discussed, there's no numbers on it, so you kind of lose track of scale.
Yeah.
And equally, like the one at the bottom is probably the best, so maybe that should be at the top.
Yeah, well, it depends. The map gives you the overview.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, so it
Feel like
depends
it's
if you want to
better.
have detail and then overview, or overview then detail.
I feel like it's better to start with overview guns,
But
drill
it's
down.
like also
Yeah. Any other feedback from you guys in the back?
I was going to make the point about labelling bars. Maybe you could do like a calculation to show the difference from last year.
Yeah.
Put that into the tooltip maybe.
What I would probably recommend on those bottom charts is that you show the axis for all three of them.
Yeah.
Instead of labeling them, because labeling them will clutter it up a lot more than just including the axis.
So I have like the 0 to the highest rate. So the user
Yeah,
knows what-
and I would scale them all the same way as well. So they should, if they all go from 0 to 4, all three of them need to have the same range. That way, because like the Orleans NHS Foundation Trust in the middle, that one goes the extent of the middle section, but is that better or worse than Lambeth next to it? It's kind of hard to tell. So if you use the same scale on all three of those, it'll help you be able to compare left to right as well as top to bottom in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. We talked about splitting, so like good performers, bad performers, because like his graph on the left is like pretty clear. Like if you're grey, you're good. If you're blue, you're not so good.
Right.
So if I was a CCG director and I want to see a really simple message, we've got it.
Yeah.
That's good. That's fine.
Yeah. Oh, you mean having all the blues together and all the grays together?
All the greys.
Yeah, but the only thing about this is it shows the ranking.
Yeah, but we don't see the ranking. We don't know the number. I've got to work it out.
David Krupp from the
Oh,
chat
I
has
see.
said maybe try slope charts to show trends instead of bullet charts.
We looked at that.
Yeah, I was
It
initially
didn't
going
work
to try and use
It
that.
didn't
but
work
it's-
very well.
Yeah, quite complicated because the data I've got isn't the best to use for.
We built one, but it didn't really show. It didn't show it as well as showing the bullet graph did. We tried both. Yeah. So Marcus, some other things. So in your title, can you scroll back to the top?
I don't know, spelling mistake.
No spelling mistakes. You probably say how high are death sickness rates, right?
Yeah.
But I would have the South on the second line with London because it's South London.
Yeah.
It's something subtle, but I would have put. Do you guys see what I mean there?
Yeah.
Probably would have done that.
Yeah.
I really like how you use the blue lines to divide up the view. It's very, very effective.
Yeah.
I probably would have killed the border around the map. You see how there's a very light gray border around it?
Yeah.
I know I'm being very
It ruined it for me.
I think we talked about the color contrast. I liked how you used the NHS color choices, the dividers, your tooltip, and the ones at the top is good. But in the bar charts, wherever you hover, I would like to see 2015, 2016, and the difference. So Luke was saying to include the variance between the two.
Yeah.
So it would have been good to have, no matter where you hover over Greenwich, whether you hover over the blue bar or the black line, that you see all three of those data points.
Yeah.
Great footers. I like your footer is simple, but it's very effective. Citing your source. So Caroline beat that into you guys. Hopefully I see that from everybody else as well. Another small thing is in the bar charts, I would make them all the same width, like as far as how fat they are. So because you got the three in the middle that are so much wider than the other ones. Does that make sense? I'd probably have them all the same width, like this direction. Like I would have them all the same fatness this way.
Okay,
so
yeah.
you'd have some white space under here, but that's okay. It just makes it look a little bit more consistent, I guess.
Yeah, that was my only concern, sort of the white space. I didn't
Yeah,
know what to do.
you didn't want the white space. Yeah, so
Yeah.
white space is okay.
Yeah, I thought it would have been in an awkward position.
What I probably would have done is I would have moved community service to the middle and mental health to the right.
Okay.
So then your white space is on the bottom right. It's kind of more out of the way.
Yeah.
Rather than it would stick out a bit more in the middle.
I do have to say, I also like that he's put in brackets and in the black font to show that the Gantt is the 2015, so
Yeah.
you really can't get confused.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So your titles were good. I like how you spelled out CCG and the other things. MH,
Yes.
and
yeah.
CS. What happened to PR?
I had to research it because it's been a while since PR has changed.
So you just dropped it.
You lost it.
PR has changed. PR
Well,
has changed.
is PR
since-
included in the map at the top?
No.
Are you sure?
May not be.
Let's work it out.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Well, if it's
PR.
not, you know.
Oh, sorry, do you mean the data from PR?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, everything's included in there.
Average.
but
Yeah.
PR is not included in the bottom, right?
No, sorry, PR has been renamed to community service.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I
I'm
did
sorry,
some
misunderstood
research
that.
into
Okay.
what PR now is.
Okay.
And
So you're not
community
missing
service.
one. You just you called it
Renamed
community
it,
service.
yeah.
Okay, that makes sense then. I do like that chart choice for year over year. I think that's very effective. You see where it says organization on top of all of your bar charts?
Yeah.
We're right above. I would hide all three of those.
Yeah.
This is kind of unnecessary. And then the scaling of the bars. That's it. But it's really good. Great effort.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well done. So now you have to improve that much every week.
The bar has been set very high.
Okay, so Elena, I'm going to give you presenter here. Presenter. Was there any other feedback on the?
I was asking them if they could.
Okay. Thank you. I don't want to pull it up on the screen while we're.
Done.
Johnson. Is that one up?
All right, Marcus has set the bar high. Let's see what Elena's got here.
Thank you. My name is Elena, and I will present to you my application visualization for the dataset. So let's open that up. Okay, so the data is the Metropolitan Police of London data set about crime rates in the UK. I've decided to use this data set and focus on the crime in London and show the stats by London boroughs. The initial idea was to inform anyone who would like to know what's the crime rate and some crime specifications in the borough that they live or they work or they plan to move or visit. So let's go to presentation. Okay. Initially, I had went with a storyboard. So in the story, I would need to click on a few cards up top to access all the charts and all the information, which was something that I initially wasn't sure about, but like I went with it. And now I've opted to change this and go with the dashboard. As you can see, the colors are black with gray and yellow, and the blues is an accent color. These are the colors of the Metropolitan Police, and I've used them as inspiration to show this information. Also, I didn't really like how hard it was to navigate through the presentation, so you would need to click a few times and then click again, and if you would select something in the initial map, it wouldn't show here. So that's something I opted to change the second time around. And also, if I dropped the story, this would also shorten the presentation, and it would be quicker to get all the information that someone would want to get. Okay, let's open the redid version. Here it is. So I wanted to keep it much more simple. So you see we have the same colors as an inspiration, but much toned down. It's the black and white, and it shows everything in that palette. Also, you see the dashboard is much simpler to navigate. You have everything at the top. You can choose your borough, choose the period you would like to focus on, and then get the information below. I think that this is much easier to use than a storyboard. Initially, I think that the map worked very well, that it actually showed how crimes in London happen geographically, like you have a higher concentration in the middle, maybe more in the south. and that's like very useful if you would like to have a general overview. So let's look at the other charts. So we have levels of different types of crimes that are measured. For example, antisocial behavior, thefts, violent crimes, burglaries, and where these crimes happen. So, for example, in front of a supermarket, parking area, mall, or somewhere else. Also here, this is very interesting. You can see how the overall crime rates in London have changed over the last 6 years, I think. And you can also see this in more detail, for example, for specific crime type. For example, antisocial behavior would also change on the map. There it is. So my initial idea was focus on a borough. Here is the filter. If anyone would like to look at where they live, we can do the exercise right away. We can get information.
Richmond.
Richmond, yes. Go to Richmond.
Petty crime. Pickpockets. Antisocial behavior. They're preparing for Google Fest.
But on the positive side, there's like a downward trend, a slight downward trend to the entire crime statistics in the area.
Good.
Most of them aren't violent.
From last year's time.
There's just mostly
That's
theft.
Yeah.
Theft or antisocial.
And supermarkets are usually, it turns out, one of the worst places to get mugged. Yeah. And an interesting thing that you can see from the first slide is like that crimes are usually much more prevalent in the warm months, where people actually go out and commit crimes and get drunk.
Shocker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions? Anything you'd like to go over?
Love the color choices compared to the first one.
Yeah,
You had so
definitely.
many colors like yellow and blue and crazy colors. And
It
this
was
is
crazy.
just, you take the Metropolitan, you run with it, and it looks really serious.
It is serious.
The simplification is very, very good. I like your nice big titles because they sort of almost, and they're bold, so they sort of force you to read them. I assume that was your intent.
Yes.
Yeah. The big ass number. I probably like that, right?
Yeah.
The big ass number.
It's nice.
It's really good because it helps just quantify everything. I did notice when you filtered to a borough, your map doesn't zoom. So
Yes.
you have your pin set there on your map.
Yes.
So I would probably have it zoom when you pick a borough. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Do you-
yeah,
Depends.
yeah. Especially because you've got
Depends.
inside that the postcodes as well.
Yeah. Anyway, I like your tooltips there on your hover over your. I would just very simple cleanup. Instead of it saying number of records, I'd probably rename it crimes or something like that. Number of crimes or something like that. Yeah. I like how you made your bar charts on the right with a gray background. It makes it feel like sort of a complementary section to the rest. So that actually works really well. I
That was
like
from
that.
Caroline.
Yeah. You're missing your labels on top of those bars though when you're hovering over now. So I would put those back on.
Yeah, they're only in the total. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the kind of minimal line chart where it's just really black. The black line sticks out. There's no grid lines. You don't need them. Very simple. Axis. So the only thing so this one has a border around the map as well. I probably would have gotten rid of that and put just like Marcus did, put like a divider right here between the map and the line chart. I don't know.
Also, I'm not sure if there's supposed to be a forecast on the bottom one, and there's not, or maybe you put one on and didn't move it. I'm not sure.
Yes, but I do the black and white works really well here as well. I think with a crime theme, black and white seems to work really well.
Yes.
Linked to the logo.
And also I would like actually align this line here with this line. Which I just noticed now.
Okay. Yeah. One other small thing is you probably want to make sure you include the footers. So who designed it and where your data source is.
Yeah.
Like Marcus had on the bottom of his. But I like including the logo as well up there because you can sort of see where the color theme comes from just based on the logo. That's good.
Thank you.
Any other feedback?
I suppose you could make London dynamic on the R London crime makes falling, because when you zoom in, it's not really talking about London. It's like getting into detail.
You can make it based on whatever borough you pick.
Richmond crime makes rising
Yeah.
falling. And you could even highlight. You could be like, it is falling, or trailing.
Yeah.
Maybe more on the tooltips, I was considering something like that. More information on the hover over.
Yeah, I like how you have the rank in there because it helps kind of quantify the colors. So that might have helped in yours as well. You didn't have a rank in your tooltip, did you? Just the number, right?
Yeah.
So including the rank helps because then you don't have to kind of guess where it is. But that's good.
Initially I had more, let's say, a whole chart showing just the rank, which I think was maybe too much space, too much unnecessary information in a story.
So and I like the interactivity you put on there for the, you don't need to interact, but if you want to, you can. So so you could look at this as a static visualization and it would be fine, but if somebody wants to interact with it, they can. I think putting the title is your neighborhood a safe place is good because then it encourages people to find your own neighborhood. I think Caroline talked about that as well, yeah. But what's interesting is this really isn't that different than your other one. You didn't really have to change, you reorganized it. You had most of these charts already, didn't you? In one form or close to them.
Yes, so I had...
A lot of it was just formatting and things like that, yeah.
And shortening down everything that I had. It was too long to save.
Yeah, that's really good.
Thank you.
Any other feedback?
The one thing that I found, I really like it, one thing that's just a little bit frustrating is to see at the bottom you just have to scroll down a little bit and then change the field so you're going up and down.
Yes.
It's so close to almost fitting on one screen. I do wonder if it's an instance of on your laptop it probably looked good, but then you move to a different display and it's a little bit smaller resolution. So it's what I've come across when I used to go consulting is you design what could look good on your laptop, but then you go and look at it in a meeting room and it's like it's not
you don't see everything.
Yeah. So I think that's something that's going to coordinate and fast, and I'd always be mindful of where it would get used.
I think the thing though is if you pick a borough, you're going to pick your own, and then are you going to filter again after that?
Yeah.
You might, but
what time periods?
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
I didn't have this white space at the sides initially, so when I was doing the layering,
I think it was like just looking at it would be a thing. It's the fact that it's so close to fitting was more frustration.
So when I was doing this, you see how I don't actually see the sides, and when it goes to presentation mode, we have the sides show up.
Yeah, this is just part to do with how it renders.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean yeah. Okay, David suggested adding more white space around between the dashboard elements.
Mm-hmm.
So that might help as well.
Yeah, it might.
Cool. Good job.
Thank you.
I like your other dashboard titles as well. This or this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Choices.
Nice.
It's breaking stuff. Sorry about that. Marcus.
What am I doing here? Sorry. Okay. Alright, hi everyone, my name's Lee. So the data set I'm going to use with you, I'll show you, is the one that I used to first apply with. It's on gaming.
and it was probably like the second or third time I used Tableau. So if I just show you that one.
Calm down, folks. Calm down.
So yeah, there's a lot wrong with it.
We're all of a sudden all snobs.
I wanted to try and do as much as possible, really. So this first one here is about which publishers sell the most. So we have sort of a ranked list along here, and they're sort of ranked top 3 by year along here. I'll go through it quickly because there's quite a few.
And the years are in descending order as well.
Yeah, this is terrible. This was just to show the number of sales by game platform. I mean, this is covering the hard copies over the years of 1980 to 2016, just for a bit of context. So yeah, that's to show that. The next one was even worse. Same sort of thing by the platform. By the genre. So like platform games, shooting games, that sort of thing. So the average global sales. Next was by the top ranking titles. So this showed the top ranking title of all time, which was Wii Sports. But you could filter down by the platform, the genre, select a year, and also by a publisher as well. And then finally, just to show something interesting that I found, that hard copy sales dipped massively from 2008 to show that it was like the download era had started.
And I think I remember when we talked about this, you told me that you intentionally wanted to try to show that you could use lots of chart types, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I just wanted to try and do as much as I can. But it came out as a general overview, and that's kind of where it sort of lost a bit of a narrative, maybe. I liked some of the use of color, but it was without purpose. Some of the screens were quite weak, but I liked some of the use of icons or pictures in it. I think this was my favourite one, and this is what I wanted to do originally, which is what I've done to remake it, which was allow a person to go by a platform or a genre to find a game that they might like. So that's what I've focused on moving forward. So if I go back here, so I used this kind of layout to move forward and sort of structure that, which was something that Caroline showed us. So yeah, I wanted to have a clear title and some context so that the person viewing it knew what it was about and what they could do with it. But following that, you had the clear functionality and they could follow it in a step-by-step process. So first they'd select a publisher and then select a game and then a desired genre, and at the bottom you get some results of games that they might like. And so this is what I came up with. So yeah, so here we have, as I said, looking for a new game, follow these stages. So the person could then select a publisher, and it would then filter to show platforms that that publisher publishes on. The person could then select a platform and then select the genre of game that they would like. So if we go to adventure, it would then bring back to them, that's not a good example there. It would then bring back to them some games that they might like. So they could use this as a tool to discover new games, really. You can then work backwards to perhaps find something different. So if we go for B, they're not good examples, yeah. Yes.
And what do the numbers mean at the bottom?
So they're the number of copies that were sold for that game under those criteria.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wanted to use the same sort of retro colours with a purpose. I matched it to this picture. I gave it a Space Invaders kind of vibe, and just wanted to turn it into a tool rather than an overview like I did before. That's about it.
Nice.
I love the lo-fi.
Yeah, it's
Like,
cool.
the whole
So
thing.
cool. So
You mean in the pictochart thing you did, or
No,
just
just
this layout?
low, low
yeah,
layout.
it's fun.
I like the fonts and the icons and the
Yeah,
colors.
brilliant theme with the.
Well, it fits well with the theme.
Yeah,
And you got a picture to reference it just so that I know for sure. At the top.
That's really cool.
I really like how you used, your pictochart thing. It seemed like you kind of move things around in that while you were doing it to kind of help you think through the. So I guess you didn't feel like drawing it and use that instead of drawing.
Well, drawing it first, but obviously for this purpose, I just like.
Oh, okay.
I get the result.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Why are your bars so skinny? Just curious. Why did you make that choice?
So that's the idea of following the theme of Space Invaders. They're supposed to be like the bullets.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
The
Now
problem
I get it.
is
Now I
that
get it.
the sizes would move as you would kind of filter through. So
Okay.
that was a bit annoying, but I couldn't fix that.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're
Makes
supposed to be bullets.
Yeah. A small thing, but in the stage 3 there, some of the labels are cut off.
Yeah.
So you probably should have made that slightly taller so they would wrap.
The font as well was slightly annoying. It wouldn't. So you go from like 16 to 20, but it wouldn't actually change. And then
Right.
suddenly it would change to a massive.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I like how you have the summary. Again, it's really neat how you made this a tool, and it's very like guided for the user. Why did you choose not to sort the ones at the bottom? Or are they sorted by the most popular? They're not sorted by downloads. Are they?
I think, yes, I guess I overlooked that.
They originally were, I think. But you
I think
probably
they
put it
originally were, I think we got lost somewhere.
But would the intent be this is the most popular
Number one,
one?
yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
just
I didn't know
show
if maybe
us-
they were sorted by a rating or
No,
something
no,
like
it was
that.
supposed to be like here are the top 5,
Okay.
so someone can see that these are popular maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only feedback I have. I really like the layout. It's a neat. I like how you made it a tool for people.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to do with it originally, but didn't really know how.
To add as well, I think in your original demo, when you was going through it, I think I noticed that Counter-Strike sort of at the bottom of the summary, the title for Counter-Strike sort of expanded beyond the box.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some of the long
Yeah,
titles.
some of them have the names are massive, so it was hard to, and it seemed to come up with a different result because I just sort of click randomly. So yeah,
And like Elena, make sure you include the source where the data came from.
yeah, I didn't do that either. Yeah.
It's very easy to overlook that. I tend to throw it in there as the first thing so I don't forget.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And I still forget sometimes. Any other feedback for Lee?
I think it looks, I really like it. It's great. The one thing I would say is maybe spend a bit more time on tooltips.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You got the cool fonts, and why not make the tooltips?
Yeah, exactly. I kind of ran out of time on that. Overlooked the tooltips.
This is a custom font. Did you download it yourself?
No, it was actually on the list. It's the first one. It was a number or some sort. I just sort of started clicking through and it came up, and I thought, hey, that looks great. I'll go with that.
Yeah, when you publish it,
Yeah,
when you publish this to Tableau Public, it's not going to look like this.
No,
so that's why you always tweet a picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tweet a picture along with a link to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's really neat.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job.
Cheers.
So next up is Will. Wait, there's a comment out here. Let's see.
Disconnect.
Okay, so David said he's not sure that your charts answer the main question.
I'm not
Maybe
sure.
not.
Very similar.
Did you invite me already to become presenter?
Not
Oh, as in for a new video game. So maybe change the title.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe for a new favorite, or I don't know, something like that. Because
Or
it's not
different.
it's not necessarily a new game.
No, no.
You know what I was thinking? Like maybe go with platform first and genre because not everyone cares about who publishes it. Like I wouldn't.
Yeah, no, that's
What was your step one?
Step one was the publisher.
Publisher, then platform.
Well, you probably want to pick your console first, right?
Yeah, platform the big first.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Publisher.
Shall we wait for Al?
Yeah.
Should I just
It's
go?
fine, just go.
Okay, so hi everyone, good
They're
afternoon.
just fetching beers.
My name is William Gishane, and I'm going to be presenting one of my first visualizations today. So I picked that visualization because actually it's a topic I'm really interested by and I've always been meaning to work on again. And because I thought it was an opportunity to teach you guys a thing or two about my domain of expertise, which is international development. So before actually getting into the visualization, because the topic is a bit specific, I thought it'd be more interesting to go a bit over the aim, audience, and the data. So this is a sort of design workflow we went over with Catherine.
Caroline.
So the aim,
Caroline.
Yeah, I said Caroline, right?
No, you said Caroline.
So the aim, I'm going to do that in two parts. So the aim of international development is to try and understand why some countries are rich, why some countries are poor, why some countries are developed, why some are not. So for example, why is Singapore, a really small island nation that has no resources and a small population, one of the countries with the highest GDP per capita in the world, whereas Venezuela, which has infinite amounts of oil and a huge population, currently dealing with such a horrible economic crisis. So scholars of the discipline and development practitioners trying to understand why these things are, and then to figure out policies that countries should put in place to achieve whatever development goals they have. And so all the people that work in this field will go through massive amounts of data from censuses, from different businesses to try and analyze what are the forces that are causing some countries to develop and others not. And the reason I think visual analytics is so important for this field is that usually all this data is presented in tables, or regression tables are really difficult to understand, are not accessible to most people, and you don't actually feel anything going through them. It's very difficult to remember which countries are where, and you don't really get a feel for it at all. So the aim of my visualization, the one I'm building, is to compare Africa as a continent as a whole to the rest of the world, and also to show if there's any global pattern that we can find in the ways that countries have been developing. So the audience is mainly, development experts or people that are quite familiar with the topic, but I also wanted to make it quite fun so that someone who knew nothing about this would still, take the time to look at it and go through the presentation. The data itself is World Bank data that I found online from 2015, just for the year 2015, so no time series, which just looked at a few key development indicators. So I'll get into what they mean for a majority of the world's countries. I think it's about 180. So here's the first one I made. So it's the third visualization I ever made. So it's got a title at the top with a little sort of idolized description of sort of a summary of the insights of it. And then the main part is this these three scatter plots with a title on top and a little explanation at the bottom. So on the left axis, you've got child mortality. So child mortality is a really interesting key development indicator because it's sort of a really good comparison point for sort of the level of development of a country. So child mortality will really evolve in conjunction with a lot of other indicators. So I don't know, so like GDP or the health system or education, because the moment that people have money, that they're educated, that they have access to hospitals, child mortality will go down pretty linearly. So that's why I put down the y-axis as your baseline comparison tool. And then on the x-axis, we've got all these different other key development indicators. So female school enrollment is considered a pretty important one. Literacy rate, quite obviously. And so here you can see one thing, this one's actually broken, and I don't actually remember what the original thing was, so that's a pretty big shortcoming of my original viz. So one thing I really liked about it is how the color scheme really pops out. So the moment you look at it before you even have time to think, you just know, okay, I'm going to be comparing blue and orange, and the whole guide, as you're guided through it, reading, that's the first you really think about it. Then you'll read, okay, Africa, that's blue. Okay, rest of the world, that's orange. So that really pops up quite well. The biggest problem is, I think, clutter. So these three scatter plots, quite confusing. It doesn't really show the whole convergence story. So this whole pattern that you can see that, overall all the countries seem to be converging towards this one point at the bottom right. But so the idea of Africa seems to be doing worse, you kind of get it, but the whole convergence doesn't come out as well. I think that someone who isn't interested by this topic would see this and probably just, change pages and not actually go through it because it looks too complicated. People don't like scatter plots to start off with. So when I showed it to my friends, actually, I did this in class. So I think I did it the next day that I met you when you came to do a career event at my school. And we were going through all this data, putting it to Stata, which is this really old statistical package. And I remember how boring it was. And putting it through Tableau, I immediately thought like, wow, this tool is really cool. Like, this is so much clearer and easier than what we did. But yeah, so color scheme's quite good. Scatter plot, just too much clutter. And the story, I think it isn't well explained enough.
Is there a reason the women's scale is backwards?
Yeah. So a reason I did this is at first it wasn't, which made it even more confusing because some of them it would kind of converge this way, and then when it got to
so you wanted them all converging to the bottom,
those form, right? Yeah, exactly, to sort of keep that motion thing going. But I do realize it was
on this one. You probably don't need your legend at the bottom either because you say Africa and the rest of the world in blue and orange.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was a bit overkill for sure. And so this is the one I remade. So I've actually remade 2 versions because I couldn't agree with the color scheme. So this is the main version I remade. But so I separated sort of the main scatter plot, which is, I guess you call it a play area, where I want people to spend most of their time, but also this top part. So I really want the person to read this to understand, why did this person make this? Well, I had a national development indicator to get, that's what it's about, Africa, and then this sort of little paragraph explaining everything. And then I've removed this huge scatter plot with just one scatter plot for 2 things. First, it looks a lot nicer. It's just really more appealing. Also, spatially, I mean, now if you compare, so I'll look what this country is. So top right, this is Italy. So really high gross national income, really low child mortality. And if you compare that with all the way at the bottom, which is Angola, you really get a feel that Angola is really far away from where Italy is. So before, because the dimensions were so small, you didn't really get how far away Angola was in terms of development. Whereas now you really get to see, wow, Africa is really, so these African nations.
Makes the clusters stand out a lot more.
Exactly. I kept, so yeah, I didn't talk about that before, but I kept the average grid lines. So this is sort of define the zones of quite obviously good, bad, and these are just, okay. And so,
and again, you have your child. Why did you choose to have your child mortality rate backwards?
So once again, this is to bring the attention to that top right part. So to make it sort of more clear, usually top right is where the good will be, and bottom left will be where negatives will be. So I did this way to sort of keep it according to the way our brains are functioning.
They're progressing towards top right as they improve their economic situation.
And so the main thing I did with this one is take advantage of Tableau's interactivity. So I used a build of different parameters and link them to this, which means that if you move these around, everything moves. And I also made it, so that was actually way more complicated than I thought it would be, but so this also changes dynamically. The axis at the bottom changes dynamically with the parameter. And yeah, so you can just move around and see how, according to these key development indicators, how countries are doing. And you can see in all of them that Africa is bottom left, struggling compared to the others. The fact that now it's blue and gray, it's really Africa that stands out, and the story is mainly about Africa and not about also the rest of the world. I added the trend lines. I wasn't sure if it was too overkill, but I thought it really brought out the story about convergence well. So now my 2 original objectives, compare Africa, show how it's struggling, and show the overall convergence, really came out. And I thought this polynomial sort of curve was quite pretty, actually. And yeah, I think that's mainly it. Go ahead.
I think maybe if you're trying to get or reach a wider range of audience, that maybe in the title you already know the answer to the story you're trying to show, a trend that you know. Maybe make that obvious rather than saying how does Africa fare, like say are they lagging behind, or like something which already indicates to you where the trend is going to lie.
Yeah, you could take part of your subtitle and put it in the title maybe. Yeah. Why'd you choose blue this time instead of the orange? Because the orange is a more impactful color.
So I'll show you the other version, which is pretty much the same thing, just with the orange.
I like how you have the other countries gray.
But Africa and
orange.
I
would have maybe put Africa in orange because it pops more.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so another thing,
personal preference, but
the blue and orange as well, something I didn't mention before, but politically speaking, because it's the data about countries, blah, blah, there's always sensitive topics. Having it blue versus gray doesn't really, show anything, whereas orange, which is more seen as good versus blue being bad, is more of a contentious thing. Mm-hmm. So that's why I also just wanted to make Africa versus a neutral color to not make it like good versus bad. And then I chose blue mainly because I really like that blue, gray, white variant, but I didn't get to test blue versus orange enough. So, but I get what you mean. I mean, it would have popped out.
I would have probably done orange and gray. Instead of,
that's what I mean. Yeah. But I just before coming in built the one with the other version. And actually on my computer it looked really ugly, but on the TV it came out a bit better. Yeah. But I just changed that about 5 minutes ago. So. Okay. Well, an hour ago because I was listening to you guys.
Yeah. So a couple things. I like how you went through. You talked through the aim and the audience and the data. So using that, it made you kind of stop and think about that, right? So I think that you could tell that came into your design choices here. A couple small things. I would probably kill the borders around the scatter plot.
Okay.
That way, they're not distracting. It's very minor, and I still don't like the child mortality rate being backwards because high is actually low on the scale here.
Yeah.
Which to me is counterintuitive To me, it's kind of.
Maybe do chunks.
I quite like it because we were talking about this, and he had that kind of dynamic good box that was switching around, and I was just like, if you're looking at a scatter plot, you know, the top right, the best.
Yeah, but the thing is, child mortality rate. If you look up on the scale, you're going to think that's a high child
I
mortality
didn't
rate.
even look there though, because I'm looking top right already. I'm not even worried about what's
Right, so you think it's a high child mortality rate?
No. I would look at the top right, I think that's good, and then I'd look at the detail. Personally.
Maybe turn it to a survival rate. That way it'd be better. That way the good part would be in the top
Yeah,
row.
yeah.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think in the back? Sasha, you look like you want to say something.
I like the quadrant being positive.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I trained you better than that. I don't know, personal preference, but yeah, it's I understand why you did it. So
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, once again, I mean, this type of thing the only people I think who would even look this up are people who are interested in development.
Yeah.
And to someone who did this would be quite obvious, I thought.
Sure.
But most of the time, whenever I've seen this data, this data that I got in class that was given to me, and when you look at it at a table, it's really hard to care even. I mean, you look at it and it's just another statistic.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I put it in Tableau and saw it this way, I was like, wow, like this is pretty horrible.
Yeah.
Like the level of development is really, like you can see it's spatially so much better.
Sure.
So Nalidi suggests it's kind of confusing, so maybe put a good quadrant, like mark it out somehow, if it's possible.
Yeah, like make sure that you know the upper right is good.
Yeah, at first I wanted to put like a box with some shading in it, but because the problem is, because the scale at the bottom, because it's parameter and it's kind of dynamic,
It changes.
So if I
the
put
box
something,
moves.
it either gets squeezed or, so that was,
And on this view, I would probably set it to not start at 0.
Yeah, but if I did that, if I fixed it, then when I switched it to the other one, it just wouldn't work. Why would it work?
Income or something? I don't know, check.
Well, the first one will work because it goes to the negative.
No, it should. No, because if I fix it, can I fix it to be infinite on one side but start at a certain point?
Sure.
Okay.
But you could also just untick the include 0.
Okay.
Yeah.
Andy, can you make the axis like a gradient in colour? So can you? I'm going to say so. Obviously, like being indicated.
Yeah.
Simo and David both say they'd remove the grid lines, and possibly also the borders.
And how do you search for a specific country? Can you? Or?
Oh yeah, you should have like a highlighter.
Yeah, the highlighter would be good in this. Yeah.
Good call.
It's all great. It's all great feedback afterwards. Well, this just kind of goes to like I was telling you guys last night. Nothing's ever done, right? There's no such thing as a perfect viz. I like your use of parameter here because when you have all 4 on there, you think that they all kind of they're all independent of each other, right? Those key performance indicators. So I like how you split it out into one nice big chart. But yeah, finding the country is a big thing. Good use of parameters, obviously. And you've got your source on there, so that's good. Yeah, anything else?
I preferred the colours originally.
The orange and the blue?
Yeah, I did. I thought it was quite contrasting. Yeah, just quite in your face.
But to me, the orange ones draw your attention here, not the blue.
I would say that one.
So it depends on what you want the focus to be.
After the story, so.
Cool, good. Oh, is there any more feedback? Hold on, there's more. Is that it? You could add a parameter for y-axis to even more flexible chart construction. Yep. Let's see. What else do we have here? All right. I think that's it. Good job. All right. Next up.
See ya. Other AJ. Make sure you do the right JJ.
Right.
You're not even on there.
Am I?
You should be. Let me sign up. Let's see. Ooh.
I don't see you in here.
I don't see you in there either.
Last one, so like, nothing wrong.
Tisk.
I got my feeling.
Yeah, it looks nice.
What's up with you, Marcus?
That's what
you didn't do.
That's better, right?
It doesn't matter for me, please.
Always bring extras.
Yeah, it's a bit rude,
Andy.
You ready?
Just waiting to view William's screen.
Your presenter.
That's cool. Hey, take it out. Take it out. Who's going to go for you?
The door's quite noisy. Did it make you a presenter?
Okay, hey guys. My name is AJ, the original AJ. Well, just to clear that up. So official now that I seen Twitter. So yeah, so this is one of the first visits I did.
That's a new one.
No, this is one of the first ones I did. I've chosen all the colors purposely in this one, which is one of the things I did like, because originally I chose red and blue. Red because it was so contrasting, but then when I sent it off to Andy, the first feedback he said was red usually has negative connotation to it, and because immigration right now is such a sensitive topic, I have to go to something neutral color, so I went for yellow and green. Other things I like the black background, like I thought it stand out quite well. But then there's still like loads of like a lot of design errors in it. Some of the minor ones are obviously like it's not aligned properly. The fonts are different. I don't know if you can see it. And then there's a big problem with it. Is like the data I collected. So again, this is one of the first visits. So the data I collected aren't linked together properly. So what I mean is like, so if I was to hover in any of this, then it can't be filtered because of the way I actually put it in Tableau. So I really wanted to change that. So in my viz, I did a lot of back-end stuff. So moving on from this, I went to this other.
I like your matrix on the bottom though. I think that works really well.
Thank you.
Little grid.
And then I went to this one. This one isn't quite my final one. So I went. Oh, you can't really. Yeah. So this one isn't quite my final one, but this is the one I showed to Andy this morning. And I asked him, hey, Andy, what do you think of the color? That's the one he said, and he said he chose the other one. He didn't even look at it. He barely literally took half a second. And he said, I like the color scheme in the other one better.
Oh, you're asking which colors I like better.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it was you just barely even looked at it.
You didn't ask me to look at the dashboard. You said, which colors do you like better?
Yeah, that's what you did as well. So this is my intermediate one, but I want to show you that I did an intermediate one, so I did it. But then, like I said, but then my final one is this one. My final one, which is very similar to the original one, but it's got a lot of hidden stuff that I've changed. So for the first one is I had to sort all my data out. So I had to use Ultrix with Mina's help, and I had to transpose my data. So now if I was to hover in the map, for example, so any of the like for Scotland right now, I have chosen. Yeah, there you go. So if I was to hover in any of them, it will highlight Scotland in the heat map. And also, similarly, if you go back to the net migration map, you can changes. It does it a lot quicker here, but yeah, it changes as you highlight different ones. Some of the other things I do want to highlight is you can't scroll. I wanted to make sure when you look at the data, when you look at the viz, you can get a snapshot of information without even touching, without even just looking at it. You can tell. Obviously, London here has a high migration rate. You get, like London historically has had a high migration rate compared to other ones. You can also see you have high migration from India.
You need to turn combo on.
Yeah, I've tried it out, but I'll try that.
That's okay. Don't worry about it now. You're all future reference.
Should come big screen soon. Yeah. So the main highlight I want to do is you get snapshot of information, and as you click on it, or as you hover on different information. You get exact information needed. So all of them have tooltips. And other thing is consistency. So I made sure all the font is sans serif. That's the one Caroline suggested is one of the ones that she liked using. So I tried using that as well. And it's very consistent throughout the whole viz. Same with the color and same with the layout as well. So all of this is floating layout and all of them is exactly precise. So it's all consistent and hopefully nice to the eye. Yeah. Any questions?
First comment, the tooltips, please don't put the yellow font on the tooltips.
You're going to read it?
That's scary.
So the yellow on white is hard to read. Like if you hover over Scotland again.
Oh,
It was on
Yeah.
the
It is a bit easier to read in the black screen, so you must like that's the other thing.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, you can't. You might not be able to read it. Yeah, I wanted to go with the color theme, but
A little overkill in the color theme.
a little bit of it too much. I
So
think.
all you really did was just rearrange it.
Yes. Well, I tried to play around with the data a bit. Because like now, with the other data I had, I couldn't transpose anything. I couldn't filter anything out because there was all complete separate data. And then I had to just play around with the design a bit.
So what's the purpose of the map?
The UK map or the below map.
The UK map I understand, but the other one, the world map. What's
So
the purpose?
that map shows the total migrants from each of the countries. So if you were to hover, you can tell exactly where you go migrants are coming from. So
what's the question that is supposed to answer?
So where are all the migrations coming from in the UK?
So what are the? So I think that'd be better as a bar chart with like the top 10 or something like that.
Okay.
Also, is that linked to each of the places they end up in? If so, why not have a filter to it if you can do? Like if you say each of those people go to that region?
Yeah, that's the data. Like ideally, next time if I had enough data, that's what I would want this chart to be like. So if I was to click on each of the sections, I'll have the top 5 immigrants from top 5 countries that moved to that region. But I didn't have that data. So
The reason I ask is sometimes the dots are really small on the map, and it's hard to tell if that's a border or if that's a country, or like is this a country here, or is that an island, or it's kind of it can be hard to tell, right?
Okay.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay.
So I guess just one overall question: what's the story?
Instead of like my original one had a question, but this one is just showing the migration story of like 25 years.
Right.
So just historically how it's been.
So one question to ask yourself when you design something or ask somebody else, you ask the question, so what?
Okay.
So can you answer that question in this okay, it gives me some information, but okay, now what, right?
Okay.
So I think if you think about the other dashboards that were shown a bit earlier, there was a bit more cohesiveness to that. I think the design's really good. I like the color theme that you did here, and making the heat map the focus, I think, is really good. The heat map and the UK map are really good. So just think about that. Like, that's why sometimes putting the title in the form of a question and putting each of your worksheet titles in the form of a question can help with that.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay.
And then maybe also with the underline on the title. It's a bit, I don't know. Maybe
underlining the title?
Yeah, you maybe do a divider instead or something.
Tomato. Yeah. So you've got your source, so that's good. I like the line chart. One trick that I do on these when there's a 0 like that and you have the border across the years is I would hide the border across the years and just make the 0 a solid line. So it almost looks. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You'd have to see it to do it, but then you have one less line on there. But it's kind of hard to do because anyway, I can show you guys that. What other feedback do you guys have? I think the black theme works. The dark background with these colors, I think, works really well.
I really like the heat map.
Yeah, it'd be really good. Like you were asking about the tooltips. It'd be nice if the tooltip background could be black because then those colors would work better. Yeah. When you hover over something, so hover over like London 1998.
Yep.
So I didn't know if the font changed to match the color in the heat map. Okay. So that's why. So that's where using the yellow can be confusing because the yellow is associated with low.
But London's actually green.
But London's actually green there. So I get what you were trying to do. You were trying to stick with the yellow and green.
That didn't work out.
So it's good. What other comments do we have here?
With the map, I actually really like the map, but I feel like you could probably roll it up a level.
Yeah. Alex, we're going to have a talk later.
All of Europe, all of Africa, all of America, and then like Andy says, I think it could have been supplemented with a top a ranking of going into detail of those countries when you hover over Europe, for example. Where are the top ones in Europe coming from?
Okay. Yeah.
So Nalidi says she likes the color scheme, and a couple people have said to include the color scale, so is yellow good or is green good, that kind of thing. So yeah. Anything else? Good job. Well done. Next up is Mina.
Do I just,
Classic mark.
Andy, do I just take, do I need to plug anything in? Or do I just,
No, just hit share. Yeah, because I've got stuff on the screen. You might have to hit the hide if that message, so I can see the message at the bottom.
Of course it does. Oh, sneak preview. Okay, hi, I'm Mina. I am also one of DS6. I am the third to last presenter of today. Don't worry, there's not too much more to go, and luckily mine shouldn't be too long because my second dashboard is supposed to be really short and self-explanatory. My first dashboard I did for the interview, I actually really liked because of the fact that it was the first time that I tried to make clear questions.
Can you put it in the presentation?
Yeah, go, sorry. It was the first time I tried to ask clear questions of my data, and I tried to make a story of it, and I added a bit of context in the intro section. And I kind of did a breakdown. So we have the when, and we have the states listed down, and we have by
Can you just remind them what it's about?
Yeah, so as the title says up here, investigating pipeline accidents. So it's just about all the pipeline accidents in the US, where they occur, what time of the day they occur. It was very granular data. It was very rich, which is why I really liked it. So I could do a lot of stuff with it. I really enjoyed mapping it. I really enjoyed doing it across state, across times of the hours. So
the map looks great here.
Yeah, so I really liked, because it's one of those times that use of a map was actually really fun. And most of the time, it's kind of a joke that everybody always uses a map, even if you don't necessarily want to do it. But this is one of those times it was really useful. And as part of my second dashboard, I actually try and make it without the map because I kind of didn't like, or I did like and I didn't like at the same time, because the purpose of this dashboard was to try to drill down and find answers to more and more questions that you might have. So you can find very particular cases, what year, all of these details about each individual accident. So it was very much, you have an overview, you drill down, and you can, once again, you can change what exactly you're interested in. It was not extremely interactive, but at least, there was some interactivity. You could filter, you could, have a look at particular areas. So I really, really enjoyed making this dashboard and its purpose. Tried to not go too crazy with the charting, so I did stick with a lot of bar charts. This was probably my craziest one. So this is one of the things that I think it worked well and it didn't work well. People liked it because of the chart type, but then it was confusing because it was a 0 to 24-hour clock. There
aren't many of those around. No.
Yeah, so I changed this for my second one, and so one of the things that also doesn't work well is I just decided to use meaningless color in this one, which I think everybody was kind of victim to, but I just have red because I wanted it to match the theme, but I don't think I really needed to have red here. And this is probably my least favorite, and the thing that didn't work the best was this who is accountable section, because I feel like you wouldn't need to know the pipelines unless you're to that area. Like, this is local information, or if you're researching, like, it's useful, but for the average person who just wants to maybe get an idea about pipelines and their impact, wouldn't want to know this much detail.
So who's your audience in this thing?
So this original one, as I said, I made it for a very different audience to the one that I make my second one. So this first one is like a report. You are supposed to go there, you're supposed to answer your first questions, and you're supposed to be able to find a little bit more detail by interacting with it. It is supposed to give you more information.
So this is more for people that work on the pipelines, is that right? Or for people that work in that
Either
industry?
People who, people who live in the area or people who are familiar with the area. This is more intended for people in the U.S. interested in what goes on in their state, probably, or what goes on at their local area. People who would have at least some familiarity with it.
Sure.
But even if you don't, I do include an intro, so it does give you some idea. But as I said, for the general audience, this bottom section, the pipelines, like, it really doesn't mean anything. And the other thing I didn't like about this is I have these months in, because this is like a data visualization rather than an infographic. And these never tell a story no matter what year you filter it to. Like, it changes. There's no story to it, so there's no point to really keeping it. So I don't redesign
my... And you have your months and years split up separately there as well.
Yeah, and I don't mind that, but these months just individually, they just don't tell a story when you filter.
Okay.
It doesn't make a difference. So what I do for my other bits is I keep most of the same charts, or at least most of the same information. I get rid of the months, and I have to redesign this time section because it's just a little bit problematic to understanding. And I try to exclude the map because I don't want people to spend a long time on the new viz. I don't want to make it interactive. I don't want them to drill down into information. I just want them to, quickly have a look and have quick answers. Because I felt like I didn't want to have to compete with my first one that I made and try and make it better with the same aim. So my second dashboard, let's go up to the top, is a lot more influenced by what Caroline taught us and a lot of trying to play with design and trying to play with white space and trying to clean everything up. So these long titles, can you remember what the titles were on the previous page? Can you remember the full titles? No. So here I've just simplified it. Where, when, who. So you know that they were like where. You probably know that they were something to do with time because you saw the charts, but you probably couldn't remember the exact title. So there was no point to them. Just kept this one. I've removed all that pointless red. I'm just highlighting the states with the highest costs and the states with the highest number of accidents. So you immediately are just drawn to Michigan and Texas. I mean, you can see the others if you want to, but they're not interesting. I've also removed the intro section, but because I thought it was really valuable, I have it so that when you hover over the title, you'll still get that information and you'll still see like a picture, so you can still have an idea and visualize what it is we're talking about, even though I want to keep a clean design. And I also still put my source up here, but I just
Can you do that again? Sorry, I didn't do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah.
So I still want the context, but I just
Okay,
didn't
so
want
this is the information that was in that left-hand section of your previous one, right? Okay.
Yeah. So as I said, I wanted them to know what it is about and get a better image of it and visualize it as a topic in reality,
Okay.
but I just didn't want to clutter up the viz. So that's my solution to it. And so here's my solution to the 24-hour clock. I've got a 12 a.m. to midday, and then I split it up here, and then I just have like a little divider going down so you can kind of tell you're supposed to progress from the top left to the bottom right. So once again, a lot of little design things to do with Caroline to kind of guide you to start at one place and go to the other. I still kept these kind of not best hours, but worst hours of accidents and worst year, and they still have the hover. And the other thing is if you notice, I played around with fonts a lot in the old one, so I can go back and quickly show you. Is I have all these kind of crazy fonts that are really bold, but they're actually kind of distracting. So they suited the purpose of like a report, but they don't suit the purpose of trying to keep it clean and keep it like an infographic, something you're supposed to put the answers from. So, you can tell that, this hour is the worst hour. You can tell that this year is the worst year, but you don't want to spend more time on it than that. The most time you're going to spend is on this who. So maybe this is more for political reasons that I did this, but who knows. Holding people accountable for, having lots of accidents at their sites. And this is the only level of interactivity I've included on my dashboard. So now I can sort by the number of incidents, the number of facilities with incidents, and the incident rate at the facilities that they do have. So here it's slightly different, just depending on, maybe they have a lot of incidents, but they have lots of facilities as well. But sometimes maybe they just really poorly run the only facilities that they have that, have these accidents. So it's just this little bit. So you get a tiny bit more information, but you're still not overwhelmed with interactivity like the map. That was the purpose of this. Obviously, you don't get to answer as many questions as the first one, and I still do like the other one for its purpose. And I realized the entire time I was not in presentation mode, so you lose all that white space. I'm so sorry. Ruin it. But yeah, that's what I try to do. Remove the clutter, remove the fonts, remove the colors, make it very clear what the charts are supposed to mean, and make it very clear what the answers are. And I hope that works out. I hope you can understand at least. And I guess the last little bit is you can just see on this last dashboard just the visual comparison of how much was on the page versus how much was out.
Oh, that's good. I like that. Yeah.
So, this has a purpose. It's for report. This, if someone's on a mobile and they just want to see it, they can see answers very quickly, and then they don't spend more than 10 seconds on it. That's all it's meant for. So
that's good.
Hope that's okay. Answers? Questions?
Questions? Feedback?
The one thing, you had it's gonna sound really annoying, but you had the same sort of spelling or English mistake in your first partition and your other text.
Which one is this?
It's just hover over the top thing.
Oh, is it this?
And I'm quite picky about this stuff.
Oh, investigating.
Where?
No,
oh my god! Oh, kill me.
Accident and having
investigating.
Oh my gosh, I'm just like Marcus today.
Consultating.
At least Marcus not by himself. Okay, well, at least if that's the first thing you notice, it's not too bad so far. Let me just OCD that. Okay. Next.
Just reading through the comments. Simona likes your clean, simple design. The comments keep scrolling through. Eva says she likes how you took out the complexity, potentially move the interactivity to the top so it doesn't get overlooked. Maybe make the thin bars in the central section bigger. I gave her that feedback too,
Yeah.
but she ignored me.
I like it clean. I like it really small. It looks sweet.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just personal preference.
So with the increased amount of white space, you can give more room to the data so that they kind of back to the fatter bars. So some of the feedback I had, I like hang on guys. So I like how you're using white space very effectively here. This looks like just exactly like the stuff that David Krupp showed us that he creates on Monday when he was here. It looks very much like something he would create, which is a very good compliment, by the way.
Okay.
I like how your charts go right, left, right. How the design kind of goes across. Caroline showed us a few examples that she showed us some that didn't work that way, but then I think it kind of works really. I like that design. Splitting up the clock is a really good idea. If you get down to the bottom section, you have enterprise crude highlighted across. I would probably highlight the largest within each of those three metrics going left to right.
Okay, as in have
So
red
like I would
represent
have
one of them.
enterprise is red in the
Okay.
first one, this one, the 126 red in the second, and the 4.6 red in the third. I would probably also move, so we've done this in a couple places. So this chart and the other bar chart at the top, you have your labels for what the metrics mean at the bottom.
Yeah.
I would put them at the top so people know what it is right away. They don't have to scroll down before it. So like your total cost and your number of accidents there, I'd probably put those at the top. It's a bit more intuitive maybe.
Okay.
I assume that looks like an intentional design choice. Is that right?
I think it looks cleaner if you don't see it straight at the top, but I don't know.
But it could be a bit it could be confusing to people. Yeah. But it's let's see what else. Somebody else just left a comment. Okay, maybe have the questions where, who on top instead of more cats. More cats. It's Ben Davis. Ignore him. Any other feedback?
I get the idea you want to reduce the interactivity, but the very top chart, you sorted it by number of accidents. That makes me want to be able to sort it by the total costs as well. So,
Could add that. That was in the original. Yeah.
So I think about
if you want to still have to use
the
the pick.
sort it by whichever one.
Okay.
Yeah, you did have that in the original, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Good job. Anything else?
I preferred the original.
That's fine. I do like it.
I thought it was lovely. I didn't even know if it needed re-engineering.
That was my problem.
And this one feels like it's very much substance over style.
You mean the other way around?
No, I feel like you've gone for like graphs that are like, much cooler. But I think the design of the first one was more easy on the eye.
This one looks like, I think this one would look more like something you might see printed perhaps. Where the other one
depends on the audience though, Andy, because you think like who's going to be interested in oil, probably people in that industry.
Like,
probably see some
I agree. I really like answering a lot of questions with my original one, but I think the other side is easier on the eyes, isn't it? Like,
It's the first one's beautiful.
And I forgot to mention, I also changed like some of the color choices. Like the gray is a lot warmer and darker on the other side, and I just reduced those down to really make it like grayed out.
Right. Like you said about printing as well. The one on the left definitely for printing. The one on the right for like a website.
Yeah.
It's a good on the website.
That's good. They're both good.
Very
Thank you.
Wait, might be one more
That's
comment.
fine.
Hold on.
Oh wait.
See you at the pub. Okay.
We got 2 more left. Wait for them.
All right. Good job.
Thank you.
Right. Hi, I'm Jamie. This is the first ever thing I made in Tableau. I was learning as I went along through every single different part of storyboard. And as I'm a football trader, my idea was, sorry, I better put this in presentation mode. As I'm a football trader, my idea was to put Leicester's title winning season into numbers. And what I wanted to show, as my audience would obviously be the people running the data school, was that I could use a number of graphs appropriately. So as I got, and a number of different calculations. So the first page is just a general overview of the whole season, and going from left to right is cumulative points. And as you can see, it highlights Leicester in blue, which is a good colour that contrasts with grey, and luckily it's Leicester's colours as well, so
Yeah.
I thought it was very good. And as you can see, you can interact by pressing left and right, and history moves. And you can see at each point of the season of where Leicester were.
Mhm.
Then moving on from here, the layout of the next 3 stories is exactly the same. The graph on the left uses shots data, just basic shots data. On the right, it uses expected goals. This is a more complex version of shots, which all football traders use. And what it does is it quantifies every shot, mainly according to the location. So if you shot from a yard away from the goal, it'd be like 90%. If you shot from 20 yards, it'd be like 2 or 3%, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So, and what this first comparison was, it was shots for on one axis and shots against on the other. And what it shows is whether a team had a good attack or bad attack. And mine's going from top left to bottom right, which I don't like, but I didn't want to inverse the shots against axis, which I know Andy said before that he doesn't like. And that's what I avoided doing, because I did remember that. But here, as you can see, both graphs highlight Leicester, and Leicester don't really look like the best team in either. With the shots for per game, they're around about in the middle, so it looks like they should be a mid-table team. They shouldn't have won the league by 10 points. While on the right, using the more complex calculation, you can see Leicester looked like one of the top teams, and probably rightfully so, did win the league. So it's quite interesting that when you did complicate the data, Leicester did look a lot better. And as I felt the scatter plot was good because, as I said, it categorises the teams into a box, and you can sort of contextualise Leicester. The next one, this is quite a good calculation. It's called PDO, and it's used to determine whether teams were lucky. And what it does is it uses the percentage of your shots that ended up in goals and adds it to the percentage of saves that your goalkeeper made from shots against him. And anything above 1,000 is lucky. Oh, sorry. Anything above 1,000 is considered lucky. Anything below 1,000 is considered unlucky.
Okay. And
as you can see here, using shots, Leicester were the luckiest team in the league. Because if I scroll down, they were 12% above what baseline is.
Wow.
And as you see, the next closest was 7%. Awesome. But then if you go to the right, the more complex calculation again, I don't know why these are different sizes. These were actually correct size earlier, but Leicester were only 1.5% off the baseline if you use the more complicated calculation. So maybe once again they weren't so lucky, and they were actually a good side and did justify winning by 10 points. Finally, I use waffle charts, and this is to show game dominance, as it says in the title. And what we're using is ratios. I don't know why left says expected goal ratio and right says expected goal ratio. Left is meant to be TSR, so it should say TSR in the left waffle chart. That might have changed when I edited something when I was making my new visual today. But so the left is the total shot ratio, and as you see, Leicester had the same amount of shots as their opponents throughout the season. And someone coming first you'd expect like 60%, like between 55 and 65%. But the more complicated one, 58%, which once again more aligns with our position. And on these charts, you can compare, like the previous 2 stories, you can compare them to other teams in the league. And this time by pressing left and right. It loads.
You can compare any 2 teams then, right?
Yeah, any 2 teams. Yeah. So for example, I'll put the expected goal to the right, and this is Man City, who are the richest team in the league and have the most expensively assembled squad. So they've got a much higher expected goal rate of 64. But what's interesting with this is what needs to be taken into consideration with these stats is Leicester are not the best team in the league. So if they take the lead, they're going to go defensive and they're going to stop shooting. That makes sense because they're just holding on. While if it's Man City, Manchester United, they'll keep attacking and keep shooting. So this could actually be quite false. It could go to a lot more detail, which obviously this is just for a general audience, so you don't need to go into that detail. So what I like about this original one is I like the solid colours going all the way through. I think the layout of each story means it's quite easy for the users to read. But what I don't like, the text is a bit too heavy on each page. Also, they don't really, even though its intention was to contextualise Leicester, it doesn't really do it. There's no ranking or anything, so if you look at it, you can't really gauge how well Leicester done to everyone unless you look at each chart in quite heavy detail. So I think obviously moving forward, you want to make sure everything's a lot clearer and you can actually contextualise what Leicester's performance was and whether it actually did match their statistics. So moving on. I've taken lessons from Caroline. Actually, let's put that on presentation. Taking lessons from Caroline, I made it very clean and with big ass numbers to make it very apparent where Leicester appeared everywhere. And as you can see, it goes from lowest to highest, from left to right. And it says, and I've got a question, which is, did Leicester's underlying shot statistics match their league winning total? So obviously, their league winning total, 81 points first. That's self-explanatory. As I said with that luck factor earlier, they were first with that 12% above baseline. As you see, I've completely cleaned it out. There's no axis left or right, but it shows if it's unlucky to the left and lucky to the right with this one. It also has a quick description of what PDO is, a really short one, but that's all we need to say. The middle one, they were 5th best with the expected goal ratio, so there's only having 50%. As I went through earlier, only 50% of expected goals in comparison to their opponent in every game. And that was 5th best in the league, so they shouldn't come there. And most shockingly, they were 10th with the difference between the amount of shots they had for the ones they had against. They only had 0.18 more shots than their opponents across the entire season, which you don't expect for a side that came first. So looking at that, you'd think that their rightful position was about 5th or 6th, and you can see that from just a big bold number straight away.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really need to
you
look at the
naturally
graphs.
want to kind of average those big numbers. Yeah.
Then what I've done at the top is, if you change this drop-down menu to say, this is Tottenham who came 2nd. What it does now is, it highlights red of where Tottenham featured on each one of these graphs. So Tottenham were 10 points. Sorry, Tottenham came 3rd. So Tottenham were 11 points below. They were actually unlucky, which usually the teams that come that high in the league, you'd expect to be lucky, so that's a surprise. Do you see the expected goal ratio was a lot higher? It's almost 8% higher than Leicester's, which shows that they're dominating the teams that are playing much more. And as you see, they're very heavily into the bottom right with good attack and good defence. Also, on this drop down, there's Arsenal, which is similar, and then I've got the bottom 2 teams that came as well. So let's go to Aston Villa. As you see, they were rock bottom there. The most unlucky side in the league, I think it's 15%, was the luck factor against them. They only had 33% of expected goals per game, which is shocking. It basically looked like they're never really going to score. And as you can see, they're very high to the top left, which is a bad attack and bad defence. But one of the few things I'd like to have changed with this is, when I did do this drop down, I'd have liked it to either change to what Aston Villa's, or whatever club it was, his positions there, or in the brackets, put in red of what their positions were, so you've got a direct comparison to it. Also, I'd have liked to have all the clubs, but it was the original data I used, so Andy had to do some hard coding and change a spreadsheet for me because the data was shocking that I used it first. Also, I didn't leave the data source at the bottom, but I think it gets across the message very clearly of what it was trying to show, unlike the original application.
Yeah, really good. Good stuff. Let's check the comments on here first. See what you guys want to
do the pub, that's it.
They all left?
They'll say she had pub.
Feedback, guys?
Yeah, yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed it. I do like it, like the way it's laid out, and it's very easy to read. My only thing is, your title of did Leicester's underlying shot statistics match their league winning points total?
Yeah.
I can't help but feel it's a bit thrown off by having the other clubs in the drop down, because your titles for Leicester's underlying shot statistics.
Oh, what's this? But it's Leicester there first, and I've got to change for comparison. I work really short. Yeah, I know that could be a lot cleaner underneath it.
No, I think he's saying the title should change.
He tells your story. So the question is, did Leicester's underlying shot statistics match their winning points total?
Are you thinking it's unnecessary to have the other teams in there?
Yes and no.
You're trying to make a comparison, but that's not the question, maybe?
Yeah, because when you put in Arsenal, for example, it's like the actual question is thrown off a little bit.
As I said, it's more just like a general audience, and if you're a football fan, you could get up your team and just see how they do actually.
Well, I think the title still sort of works, and maybe it needs to be rewritten slightly, but the title still works because you still see Lester in the vids.
Yeah.
So you still have the context of Lester. Like you were talking about swapping out the metrics.
Yeah.
I actually think it's good that you left the Lester numbers in there because you have the context of it still.
Yeah, I said I'd probably have it in brackets pop up.
Yeah,
the other one as well.
Yeah, maybe having something that says like how do they compare to other clubs and then.
That would make sense. Because that dropped down. No, when that dropped down,
Like a subtitle. You can put it at the bottom, for example, to sort of separate it. So most of it is about Leicester at the bottom for fun. You can.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about having a badge of every single other club at the bottom, but as I said, the data was bad. I couldn't do that.
The other thing
I think it's better having a list anyway because people that don't know the badges, it's easier for them to pick a team.
Yeah.
So.
I almost think like it would be good to have like Leicester down one side with all their stats. And then
almost like 2 columns.
Yeah. And the other column,
that's a good idea.
just have a slider. You just click, like second place, third place, and you can see how far it
goes
away from it.
So then maybe these then would stack on top of each other long, and then another one long next to it.
Yeah.
That would look good.
And then it could highlight if they go up or down. Yeah.
These have been great ideas for him to give you the other day, right?
I really like it compared to the first one, particularly because you can see all the statistics together and you can see how they kind of all fit to give an overall ranking. It would be nice to maybe summarize that somewhere of like, do you think they deserve or don't deserve or whatever it is. I don't understand football, so I don't really understand the question, but just summarize those 3 in the bottom to answer your question.
Yeah. And
then also I do find it a bit confusing that they have like the red waffle and then you can't tell because it's like blue on there. So if you did do the split in 2,
we had some issues with the waffle. That was the hard one to get interactive.
Yeah. A couple things. I like your use of color. The blue. Originally, he was going to just have it always be blue for the team you picked, but then we're like, it'd be good to have Leicester there for context. So I think that ended up working out really well there. I like your the layout, how you have the big number, the line, and then the chart with the description. I think that all flows really nice. I don't think you need the game filter because you don't use it.
Yeah, since you need to see that.
So you probably could kill that. The descriptions are really good. I like having them shorter, and you highlighted the number, so that's really good. I think overall, it tells a much better story than when you actually ironically use story points.
Yeah, because story points it just seemed like just a random overview of any stats that I could find.
This is much more. This flows a lot better for me. Do you guys think that as well?
Yeah.
I feel like the chart, the lucky unlucky chart, needs to be sorted.
I tried to, but the problem is that was 1,000, and I hard coded it to be a gap from 1,000, and you wanted to sort it by the highest.
Okay.
So it's a bit of a mess trying to.
Yeah, because I feel like you want to see Leicester at the top because they were the luckiest, and then when you pick another team, it highlights where they are in the range. So it's hard to know like that. Well, Arsenal you can see a second, but if you pick pick a different team, like when you pick Tottenham, it's hard to tell. Like, are they? You see, they're just below. They're just barely unlucky, but how unlucky are they? Far, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I had.
Maybe just design-wise, maybe putting a bit of space between the top 2 and the bottom 3 charts.
Okay.
Just a little
it's just squeezing it in.
I think also with the drop down where you can select another team, have really clear instructions as to what that's doing because
I've only got to change for comparison. That's probably not enough underneath it.
Yeah, I think especially like when you start doing client work and stuff, no matter how simple it seems to you, it's not going to be simple to. Or however simple you think you've made it, people are always going to say.
Because, for example, clicking that and that changing to red, they've got no idea.
Yeah,
That's the
which
other
I'm saying, because I can't really read what says underneath, but I have big sort of instructions at the top saying choose another team to compare or something like that. Or just write really clear instructions. But apart from that, I think it's great.
Yeah. So you see David's comment there. He might use the 2x2 layout because your 3 at the bottom are all the number, the line, the description, the chart.
Yeah.
But the one at the top isn't. So it might be good to have done the 2x2 layout instead. And then you can make the chart slightly bigger. Let's see, even likes the big ass numbers. A bit of context under the big ass numbers. He's 5th worst position. I think that's what he was saying, Ben, was when you pick another team, it might be good to see the other team in there. Yeah. Cool. Good. Well done. Last and possibly least.
Graveyard slot,
Actually, that's picking up. A couple people joined in.
Sweet.
All right, last one.
Hi guys, I'm Alex Jones, DS6 and Tableau UV. So you're about to see my second and fourth viz. Yeah, that's my handle. Jude Pong. So yeah, this was my original, actually not original actually. Sorry, it was my application for the final interview. I was in Japan at the time, so it was a bit of a rush job. But what I went for here was essentially using my previous knowledge as a consultant in preparing dashboards for kind of big public sector organisations. I went for like simple, smart, trying to get a clear insight out of it, not necessarily using Tableau's full functionality. So as you can see here, pretty boring colours. Like Andy's highlighted, the map isn't essentially ideal here because you've got DC in here who actually had like the biggest number of recreation visits. So yeah, I mean it was my first attempt, and it was, yeah, I mean I got something out of it, but essentially it could have been.
Well, it's a very typical first Tableau user experience. You see a globe, you're like, oh, I can build a map. Oh, look how,
it looks
easy
pretty.
it is to make an app.
It looks pretty. Yeah, then again, really simple. I tried to look at the data slightly differently. So I tried to chop it up into like spring, summer, autumn, winter. It doesn't look that exciting though. Obviously, I wasn't that experienced with Tableau at the time, so that didn't help. But I was trying to look at the data from different ways. I was trying to think, I'm looking at this set, what are the kind of insights that I can pick out of this that I don't think, a layperson would pick out. And I was trying to find trends as well, things I could talk about via presentation, because obviously I was lacking the technical skills in building.
You like pastels, huh?
Pastel, yeah, obviously you can tell, corporate backgrounds, this is what I need to move away from, and it's white on black. And so again, very simple here. I was trying to ask questions of the data without necessarily picking out, sections of it, saying, why is that? I've kind of asked that question without really getting into the nitty gritty and answering it. Again, very simple, it's just a line graph. And then, I feel like there was some insight. I was like, why is there a camping resurgence? What's happening there?
But you never actually answered the
question.
question.
I never actually got there. Yeah, So it would have been nice, actually, in fairness, to bring in some supplementary data at that point. Maybe around, was there a recession? Was there like a burst in sales in like camping gear? Anything to kind of back that up.
Yeah. So
that was my first one. Pretty dry. I managed to talk about it for quite a while though, with the guys on the phone. So they must have been really interested in line graphs. So yeah, this was my redo. So what was I going for? Well, what worked in the first one was like, I come from this background where I have built dashboards before, so I know about trying to find insight, trying to ask questions of the data, keeping them simple. So I wanted to keep those because I think I got those in the first one without necessarily answering them. But then I also wanted to make it a bit more like, boom, punchier. So like, this is not just national parks again after Makeover Monday, after that data set's been rinsed by a big crowd. So I was like, why don't I take it back to a really high level, try and find some things that I haven't seen in other vizzes, just in terms of like insight, and just get it on a one pager instead of this, instead of like page after page. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if people like animations, but I thought this was quite cool. So yeah, I was like, so quickly, when I was playing around with the data, because we had James from Tableau, James Eliard, and he was like, you need to ask questions of your data and use Tableau to ask questions of your data. So that's what I started to do, and I was like, quickly, I just came up with these, 4 fairly simplistic insights, but I thought quite key. So the number of national parks has increased since 1979. I didn't know that before. I generally didn't. And then looking at this, it's quite clear that the number of historic sites are the ones that have increased the most. So you can see here they've gone from, just around 40 to over 70. So it's like 30 increase in the last 30 years. Arguably it's not the most interesting fact, but it is a clear fact from this data set. Interestingly, national parks receive the most recreational visitors. Again, it maybe we may think that's very obvious, but it's something that I think this chart just draws out instantly. It's something that's quite hard to ignore. And again, national parkways receive the most visitors per park, so there may only be 4 of them,
but they get tremendous footfall for each of those parks. So it's essentially like a very simple dashboard, but it's something that you can take away instantly, like boom, 4 insights that I'm taking away. What you do with them is up to you. But yeah, I've really used, in terms of design, obviously we had Caroline in, so I was thinking of like audience, aim and data. So audience was very general. I was just going for broad spectrum, just let me teach you something using, a massive data set. Let me keep it very simple. In terms of design, I've gone for like this full board across the top, draw the eyes in, go with punchy at the top, and then three kind of things that I think are quite takeaway. Change the color of the text. Thanks to Marcus for the kind of tip there. Yeah, to me it's straightforward, to the point. Obviously, it would have been nice to do a bit more, but I think it's a slight improvement, or rather a better way of doing the first one that I did. So yeah.
All right, good job.
Cheers.
So a couple things. I get what you tried to do with the map, but I'm not sure it really answers the question. Because I can't see 1979 versus wherever it ends, 2015 or whatever it is. So I'm wondering if you had 2 maps side by side, if that might answer it better. One for 1979 and one for 2015, because then you would see the size of the bubbles change.
Sure. I mean, it's more the number, it's more the frequency of these red bubbles. Is what that was trying to draw out. It's like the number of national parks.
Well, yeah. Well, that would really show it then, if you're just trying to show. And what are those sized by then?
So the size is still by in terms of like the number of visitors.
Okay.
So then you can really see like these pathways are quite big.
You actually don't need the legend there.
Yeah, because I've used the text there.
So you've done it very well on the bottom. So that actually would give you room to put 2 maps side by side, and then you can kill the animation. The animation, because when you publish this, the animation doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
So I like your highlighting of the or coloring the text in those titles in the second section there. I would probably make them bold though, to make them even stand out a bit more.
We did. Marcus did mention that. Okay. We did talk about that.
So we actually built charts like this the other day, or no, we went through charts like
this
the bottom
ones.
This is
where I picked it from, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really like how you picked out one line and then you have everything else in gray. That's really great for context. It's really, really interesting, and it shows you just how many national historical sites are, and how many national parks there are, and how many national parkways there are. Yeah, it's really, really good.
For consistency, I'd remove the grid lines on the right too, because the left one doesn't have grid lines.
Or included on the left one.
Yeah,
definitely.
One or the other. Yeah.
I think I didn't have to do it.
You probably actually don't. One thing to do is maybe get rid of the access titles, because you don't need them, because they're the titles in the text above.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And then you could put a bit of white space between them to spread them out a bit. So just a tiny bit more breathing room between them might be good.
And maybe I'm not sure if you need the logo, or like if the logo fits on this.
Smaller, because even for the titling of it, or like the spacing, it's kind of awkward.
It says like width, yeah.
When it's the logo top right.
Oh, just make it a bit smaller.
If you get rid of the logo, you get rid of that year section, you put 2 maps side by side, then you filled up that space.
Yeah.
So then you don't even need the logo.
Sure,
right?
get rid of it.
Yeah. Because you're already sourcing them at the bottom, right? So did you stick it there just because you had space, or?
I thought it looked alright. I just was going to use the colours now.
I think in this design it does fill up the space nice.
Also, there's so much color. There's already color on
the
there.
colors don't fit though either. So.
Very pedantic thing is that you've got the national parks and national parkways on the left-hand side, then you just have national historic site on the right-hand side. Can you not just rearrange the title so that it's on the left-hand side as well? Just why?
I'm missing that.
Oh, so these two, the first words are the ones you're looking at, where this one is here.
Oh, yeah.
Just to be consistent.
Story, man. Yeah, I'll change that.
It's really like OCD. I'm so sorry.
That is like,
I don't want people go
OCD.
I can't believe I've done that.
Absolutely horrific. Fired.
Sorry.
I had as well. I didn't notice this earlier when I was doing the.
That's all right. Come on, this is feedback stage.
In your subheading, so you've got the number of national parks has increased since 1979.
Yeah.
Which is true. Potentially, would it be a better option to sort of, because you're already talking about US national parks in your title, maybe bold increased instead of national parks?
Yeah,
Yeah, but I haven't really done that here, so I don't know if I'd have to do. And I feel like it'd just be like, I don't know, almost overkill.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's
But actually going on top of that, because it kind of, because down then after you've got national parks in blue, and then on top you've got it in black, and then sort of.
Yeah, so this is national parks in general, and then this is national parks
Actually,
category.
think about it. A better way to do that subtitle would say, instead of the number of national parks increases since 1979, if you have two maps side by side, you could say there are 52% more national parks than there were, to give it a bit more context. It gives the maps context.
Yeah. Also, the national park data was quite weird.
So the blue national parks is englobed in the black national parks?
Yeah, this is like big boys there, and then these kind of come up. It's like 40 different types of national parks.
Again, we're being pedantic here.
We're being
I wonder if you could maybe get away with getting rid of the x-axis or bottom ones if you have more mention, because it is all over time. I don't know if you could maybe get that into the context somehow. Maybe.
I think you could just have 1979. So.
Yeah,
you could just have 30 years or something like that. Yeah. Or you can force it to go for. You could have 1979 and what's the last one? 20.
Yeah, I forced it to 10 years, but then.
So you could force it to be, what's that? 30, 40,
35 years. Yeah.
35 years. Yeah.
But if you mention all the time, maybe.
So I guess we're all really like you for picking over pedantically.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is way better than your.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I still think.
You're lucky I wasn't at the interview.
Hey. Talk my way through it. It's almost like phenomenal.
Let's see what other feedback we have here. Okay. So that is. Any other feedback, guys?
It's all right.
All right.
Maybe just the same thing as before, a bit more space between the top and the bottom. Maybe just a tiny
Yeah,
bit.
and space in between the charts at the bottom. So using a bit more white space.
Yeah.
Looks good.
I wanted that join though between the two charts. I'm bullshitting it. Nah, I mean, thank you very much. Really nice comments. Really useful as well.
Good job. Well done. All right. Thanks everybody for joining online. Have a good weekend.
See you at the bottom.